everybody. I'm Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. The aim of this podcast is to raise awareness about blindness, visual impairment, and disability in general, in a happy and light-hearted way. For those of you that don't know, I am blind. I was born with a condition called bilateral anophthalmia. Try spelling that one. It basically means that when I was born, my eyes didn't develop properly, so I wear prosthetics instead. The goal of this podcast is to remove some of the stigma and stereotypes around disabilities, whilst also having fun at the same time. Each week, I will be interviewing people from all walks of life, including some with hidden or physical disabilities like mine, and getting to know a little bit more about them and the lives they lead. This week, I'm very excited to tell you that I will be talking to Adam, who also has a disability and recently took part in the parish walk. My name is Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome.
Good morning, Evie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's an honour. I've listened to a few of the old ones.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I thought I'd do my homework, and I'm quite happy to be here. And just ask me any question you like.
Cool. So usually I ask my guests how's their day been, but you've been very kind and come in earlier in the morning. So have you got anything exciting planned for today?
It's just a routine day for me. Work, drawings, and then hopefully home for a nice tea, a good bath, and then a good rest.
Oh, nice. What are you thinking of having for tea, or have you not planned that yet?
Chicken curry, I think, is tonight.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so to begin with, I was born with my disability, but I know that yours sort of came later in life. So could you tell us a bit about your backstory?
Yes, of course. Life was going well. There was no problems. And then just before my 29th birthday, leading up to Christmas, in fact, I was diagnosed with a stage 3 spindle cell sarcoma, which is a very rare soft tissue tumour, cancer. Mm-hmm. That was at the back of my left knee. And it had broken all the bones and destroyed the joint, which I didn't find out about until after I'd done the Yorkshire Three Peaks, because I couldn't walk the following day.
Oh, God.
Following various medical examinations, they discovered the cancer. I then began chemotherapy. Halfway through my chemotherapy, which was quite invasive, lost all my hair, looked quite fat because of the steroids, and I couldn't stop eating. They partially removed my femur, my knee, the top of my tibia, and replaced it all with metalwork to save the leg. And this originally worked, and I was having a few complications following that, and they had to revise it and do the whole operation again, which left me in severe pain, which continued for the next 13 years.
Oh my God.
Controlled with medication and spinal implants and all sorts of things, which didn't quite work, not for want of trying. And then, unfortunately, on just before Christmas, the 23rd of December 21, time's flying now, my left knee became septic. I got an infection and it got to the metalwork. And so I was rushed to hospital, which ruined Christmas, and then I had to have lots of antibiotics and a few operations to try and sort it out, which seemed to work at first, and then ultimately the leg and the human body, wonderful as it is, started to do very strange things to fix the problem itself. At that point I took the decision to amputate my leg above the left knee, which happened nearly a year ago. It's about a week away. 28th of July was when it was taken off, and it immediately freed me from the pain, sorted out the infection, and within about 3 days I was already feeling massively better.
That's amazing.
Yes, for me it wasn't a traumatic experience, it was more of a release.
So you have had a lot to deal with then, by the sounds of it. But I can't imagine being in pain for like 13 years, like you said, because like most people complain if they have a headache, you know. So was it like a relentless thing, or?
It would fluctuate. It would be particularly bad in winter and cold weather. I'm sure you've often heard old people or people with knee implants, not just old people, complain about twinges and pains during cold and damp conditions. I can tell you that's true, but it would be pretty constant throughout that time. But to be fair, I couldn't have dealt with it in the way that I did without the support of family and friends and loved ones. People on the outside who weren't experiencing it with me, I would tend to hide it, mask it, and try to not talk about it, because there's only so many times you can complain about something before people no longer want to hear about it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So leading on, how did you find your transition to being able to live with a disability?
For me, like I said a bit earlier, it was a release. It was something. It was a positive. So immediately after the operation, I sat on the couch and used the remote control, which was fine. Watched a bit of TV, and then started to discover little problems like things left on the floor would slip me up, and I would often fall. The house. Conveniently lived in a bungalow at that time, but I couldn't carry a cup of coffee, I couldn't carry things as well as walk around, so I just had to adapt really. And I know people say, oh, you can get a cup of coffee with a lid on, but that's not quite the point.
No.
My ambition is one day to carry a cup of coffee from A to B without spilling it, without needing a lid, without needing anything to stop it from overflowing. But yes, it was just things like that. Getting into the bath, there was a problem. Standing up, brushing my teeth, the usual things. Cooking, cleaning. I've learnt to mow the lawn backwards.
So
you'll often
that's
see
impressive.
you'll often see me going backwards rather than forwards. So if anyone out there's got a second-hand ride-on lawnmower they don't want anymore, then I can find it a loving home.
We'll try and get that for you.
Yeah. It was just little things that you don't realise how it would have affected everyone, who had an amputation or a mobility problem previously, and to a certain extent sight issues as well. I'm sure you're aware that you might be thinking about things that might slip you up, or you might trip on something, or people move things without you knowing. It's almost the same insofar as I have to look down all the time, so lampposts become a bit of a danger.
I hate lampposts.
And people who stop and turn
yeah.
without indicating when they're walking, that can sometimes trip me up.
Yeah, the amount of people I have tripped up with my cane, and then you just get and then you just have that awkward thing where you're like, sorry, and you're going, yeah, but you shouldn't have, you can see me.
Have you ever been tempted to trip people up with your cane? Because?
I've never been tempted. It's always been an accidental thing, because it genuinely can hurt. Hurts a lot.
We don't want to do that.
We don't want to cause pain. So, but yeah, also, I know what you mean about the lampposts. They're very annoying. Yeah, and I often walk into them if I'm not scanning my cane enough, but that's my own fault, really.
People won't notice it, but around bollards and lampposts and post boxes, there's like a little green algae mark where the water rests and sits. And for me, those are like oil slicks. So if I accidentally put my crutch when I'm walking on one of those, I'll be kissing the pavement within less than 30 seconds.
God, yeah. So I know that you recently took part in the parish walk. What was your inspiration for doing this?
Right, so almost selfishly at the very beginning, for 13 years I've obviously sat out on the sidelines watching people achieve things and do things. And for me, I just thought I'd pick what seemed at the time, without really knowing it, the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard of, which is to walk 85 miles, which is totally insane. I've got nothing but admiration for everybody that does it, because it's physically challenging for even, the fittest people.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what better thing to do with one foot, one leg, than a walk? The irony of it appealed to me. And I thought, so after my amputation, I found the wheelchair club, and they're obviously a charity, and I thought, well, I might as well use this opportunity to raise a few pennies. So I initially set a target of 500. I thought, right, I'm going to take part, I'm going to raise some money, and that was really the only inspiration. It was just not feeling left out anymore.
Yeah, of course. So could you tell us a bit more about that club then?
Yeah, so the wheelchair, or Wooden Spoon Wheelchair Sports Club, it's open to everybody, able-bodied, sight-impaired, learning difficulties, people with mobility problems, everyone's welcome. I take my son with me. He schools me and tackles the ball off me, and it's quite a level playing field. We also have quite a few members who are getting on in the years, and they don't want to damage their hips or knees, and so they come along and get some physical exercise. And it's genuinely a really nice bunch of unassuming people that just get together. We have a bit of a laugh. We play handball, wheelchair handball. It's like football essentially, a five-a-side football, and we also play wheelchair basketball. And we just get stuck in. It's great fun, and we have a good laugh. And without the, I don't want to get everyone in trouble, the NSC, but we do sometimes have cake at half time without them knowing.
Of course,
which
I think that's
probably going to find out now. So there we go. Sorry,
Oh,
cat's
well.
out the bag.
I think it's very earned to have cake at half time.
Yes, it's more civilised than also isotonic drinks and things like that. You know what I mean? A bit of Victoria Sponge always goes down well.
Oh yeah, of course. So what benefit do you think can be gained from people with disabilities taking part in activities together?
Well, it creates a camaraderie. You can trade stories, build friendships. It did within 2 sessions, my well-being, my self-worth, everything was just better. It improved. I felt like a part of a group. They don't know this, but I think, I kind of look at them as kind of family now, really, rather than friends, because they've got my back and I've got theirs.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really sweet. So have you always been interested in sport, or is this a newfound passion?
Oh no! So as a youngster, my dad used to drag me to cold, wintry rugby fields to watch and eventually play rugby league. It's a sport I've followed my entire life. My beloved Huddersfield Giants, who are not doing so well at the moment,
Oh no.
in the Super League, they've always been a passion of mine. I've always been active up to my diagnosis. I used to play golf and karate and rugby. Tried dabbling a bit of cricket, but was never very good at that. So it's not something. So while I was suffering from the pain, that was probably the lowest point, because I just wanted to get involved and do things. On the island, though, there's all sorts of stuff we can do. We can do sea kayaking. We can do, fishing's a sport, chess, everything. I would just do anything. To be honest, I just want to get involved and make up for lost time.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So I heard that you are an architect.
I am, yes.
Have you found that having a disability has given you a different perspective on design?
It has raised my awareness, like talking about, mowing the lawn backwards and things like that. It's just, there are things that you can do within design and the built environment that doesn't cost the earth, that would make a world of difference to a select part of the community. And really, when you think about, widening doors, making contrasts on floors and steps and things like that to avoid hazards. These are all things that are in the building regs and things like that. And they don't have to be sort of utilitarian in their appearance and things like that. They can be well designed, and it shouldn't cost the earth, and there's really no excuse for not doing it, really.
Yeah, of course.
So, for anyone who's putting in a pavement, drop curbs, probably the most useful thing for anyone with a mobility issue.
Oh yeah.
And just when you're doing it, think, have a wheelchair kicking about somewhere, get in one and see if you can get over it.
Yeah, definitely.
It might be good practice just to let the, people who are installing this equipment to actually have a go to see how difficult sometimes it can actually be.
Oh, yeah.
And that understanding, I think, would then help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I know that I encountered accessibility issues on the Isle of Man. How accessible do you find the island?
So initially I thought to myself, because I live in Ramsey and work in Douglas, I was going to get on the bus with a wheelchair to see if I could get to work. And from my home to the bus stop, I was fine. The bus drivers were excellent. The facility, the bus lowering the ramp, slightly inconvenient to most people, but I found it very helpful. Got my position on the bus, got all the way to Douglas, managed to get off the bus, get across the road. I got within 50 yards of my office, and then the drop curbs got in the way, and I literally could not get, as an inexperienced wheelchair user, I couldn't get on the curb, couldn't get across the road. So unfortunately, I managed to get 95% of the way and failed at the final hurdle. So at that point is when I decided that I was probably going to use my crutches to sort of mobilise, and that's what I've done ever since, really. So the fact that I don't use the wheelchair is not because I can't get everywhere, but I can't plan a route if I think I couldn't get to the final bit, or that there was a stumbling block or a hurdle along the way. So I just mobilise on my crutches now.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help my hands or my shoulders.
So are there any areas of the island that you find particularly tricky to navigate?
It's just, for me personally, it's just the drop curves, and obviously glens are not designed for wheelchairs or things like that, but it hasn't stopped me. I just have to do it in dry weather and always have a team of people with me in order to enjoy the environment most people take for granted.
Yeah, of course.
And I haven't been up Snaefell yet.
I don't blame you, to be honest. I think you'd have to be very brave to do that.
Well, don't write it off yet. I might give it a go.
Okay. Sorry, I won't.
Do you want to come with me? We can do that as a team effort, as an expedition.
Yeah.
We could totally do it.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so my last question, would you ever do the parish walk again?
I've been asked this question a few times. The outpouring of love and affection, and it was all quite emotional. From that aspect, I would 100% do it again. From a physical ability point of view, I think my decision is I would do it, but only once I've mobilised on my prosthetic leg. Mm-hmm. I think at that point, I'll be able to keep up a better pace. It wouldn't be as physically demanding, but I certainly won't be attempting it on my crutches again.
Oh, yeah.
I still cannot feel my fingertips.
Oh, gosh. Hopefully you'll get that feeling back soon, though.
It's slowly returning.
Well, that's good. So those are all my questions. Thank you so much for answering them.
Been a total pleasure.
And thank you to my audience for listening, and I will see you all next time.